Hi, everybody. This is Hirsch. Welcome to TalkHotRods.com. Believe it or not, we're at Hahn and Woodward. Imagine that happening.
Amazing.
They're the title sponsor of Talk Hot Rods. They help me so much. I appreciate everything they do. But you've seen some of the 300 SLs that they've done in the past, but the one that Paul Vorbach and I are with right now, what a story behind this car. Start with
Absolutely.
this one.
Well, this is a 1956 Mercedes 300 SL Gull Wing. Behind me, behind Hirsch and I here, is the chassis of the car, and you can see from the chassis just the racing car heritage that these vehicles had. Very much a space tube frame, chrome moly steel, very light and very rigid. Very complicated as well. So yes, it's quite the machine. And in its day in 1956, this was truly state of the art.
Paul, let's make sure the folks know from the beginning. This car was owned by
a racing driver, and I will have to get you the name, Hirsch.
But we'll get that later.
We'll get that.
But I want them to know that this was a very twisted chassis. It's a birdcage chassis that was twisted.
Absolutely.
So the amount of work that Wes Woodward and the guys went through
Absolutely.
to make, because if this ain't straight, nothing. It's a disaster from there.
It's quite a process, actually, Hirsch. I mean, you do have to go right. With one of these type of restorations, you go all the way down to the bare minimum, and begin with a laser and the drawings and the plans and the datum lines and all those points to know whether it's square and straight. And of course, the body wasn't straight. It was in pretty rough shape, and then the chassis was not either. So we had to cut out metal. We had to make new components and pieces, weld them in, get them straight, double check all the way along. So it is a bit of a painstaking process on this particular car. But it's coming along nicely. We have a lot of the chassis has been put together. The belly pan is in it. And what we could do maybe is take a walk around.
Let's show
Absolutely.
folks more. Okay, Paul, this dashboard is unbelievable. Tell us about the dash.
Well, it's an all aluminum dash that goes in with the car. As you can see, we've got it separate from the car. You can take it out, put the gauges in, and that lets us test everything, all the electrical connections and things like that. You can also see in this shot, I think, the belly pans or the body pans that are in it. This is the living room of the car, and it's definitely interesting. This is only aluminum here. This is very thin. And so these cars tend to be quite hot to run. Now, we do have insulation that we put in these, a special modern kit that we have in particular that we were able to put in here to help with that heat. But especially the Gull Wings, because they're an enclosed coupe, you definitely will be toasty in here. But this dash is a three-piece unit. There's a top section, this whole entire little doghouse here, and then the front panel,
Paul,
wonderful German
when it's
gauges.
finished, it's all leather, or the top section.
The top
is leather.
section is what happens is this front section here will be the color of the car. It'll be painted the same as the body, but there will be leather all in here and all in here, and we'll cover this with padding and then leather and then install it. And one of the cool things about these chassis, for folks that might not know, is that you can actually, once we install the engine, which we'll talk about in just a minute, you put the engine transmission in here, and you could drive this thing around like a go-kart, which is kind of pretty, kind of cool.
Well, what I'm showing the folks right now is the bird cage sections around the passengers. It's amazing how much was put into the and folks, this was a production road car.
Absolutely.
This was something that had turn signals and headlights, and
even looking at the fuel tank back here, you can see that it's pretty well surrounded by the tubing. So it's not a situation where the gas tank just hangs out in the middle of nowhere. It's
Paul, tell me a 5-speed, 4-speed transmission?
It's a 4-speed transmission in these cars, yes.
And we're going to talk about the motor next.
Absolutely. This is the engine for this 300 SL. It's a 3-liter engine. It says for 1956, which pretty much all of them were the same basic size. A few of the interesting things about this engine is when it's installed in the car, they put it in at about a 45-degree angle, slanted, so that they could get a low hood line. So the engine lays on its side, and you'll be able to see that in a little bit more about just how that whole process or how that thing will look when it goes in as we show it on the stand. In 56, they started using a dual point distributor, so that's what we've got right here. And it also, these engines were the first engines to utilize direct injection. It's a Bosch pump down there. It's driven by this shaft. And so the fuel under high pressure is directly injected into the cylinders. All of the intake manifold and everything is really just a large air plenum that pulls the air in and mixes it with that fuel. So there isn't any real fuel mixture that takes place in the intake manifold itself. It's all going to be done that way. It is also a dry sump system. Behind me there, but next to Bill, is a large capacity oil tank that lots of oil goes into. And one of the issues with these cars has to be on the road. It takes a while for that oil to heat up because of the large tank. So there's a lot of guys that will actually run them a little bit light on the oil side. If we swing the engine around very briefly here, I'll show you where the water pump is. This unit right here. There we go. This will be the water pump, and it's actually driven off the generator. The generator will sit in front of here and off a pulley, driving that with a plastic gear that is used in case of something seizing up. It will allow that gear to shatter and break before it starts breaking parts. All told, the exhaust exits from this side. It's a 6-cylinder motor, so you got a 3 and 3 out the tubes. Showing the angle that this. And what's interesting is the block itself. You can see the block is actually cut at that angle. So whenever the cylinder head is off, the block sits at the top of the block is at an angle, which is an interesting thing and a bit of a challenge for the machine shops to deal with. And so that's the engine that goes in these things, along with the 4-speed transmission. It's quite a potent beast, and plenty of get up and go for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
It's actually, as it sits in the car, it's probably actually a little more of an angle.
Yep. Oh, definitely more than this. This particular body, again, 56 Gull Wing. It is been completely redone. Everything's been done on the body, every square inch of it. We got Christopher back there working on putting in some what we call post blockers to help make sure that exhaust gases and fumes don't come into the cockpit. And we're in the process now of installing some of the headliner material and everything. What you see there is some foam padding that'll go in before the headliner does itself. This is painted in its original color of silver, a very bright metallic silver, and looking forward to getting body and chassis back together very soon. Bill, what can you tell us about the body work?
Well, this car went through some pretty extensive body work. We put a lot of metal into it. We put a new nose panel on it that went on about here, all the way across. And we also put some panels in through here, the rockers, the door sills down here. We also rebuilt the door sills up in through here, which is actually part of the interior. Is the door weather seal is right here. But this was all rusted, and so we replaced that. We made new panels in through here on both sides. And all in through here, this weather channel was all like Swiss cheese. And so all that had to be cut out and new channels made and welded into place. The whole time making sure that the door would fit with the rubber strip in between the body and the door. And on the quarters, that's also seen some extensive body work. And this sort of, we call it a Terratone, is the primer color that they would paint these cars with first. And you would find this Terratone color in certain areas of the car. You'd have to start digging into it a little bit to find it, but we put it there anyhow. And the engine compartment is all blacked out, as is the trunk compartment.
Absolutely. So, these are the kind of cars that, we really enjoy working on. We've got 3 of the 300 SLs here in the shop. This is the 56, and it's close to going together. And, of course, the 57 Roadster and then a 55 that we're working on that we're really in the early stages with it that needs work, and another one waiting to come in. So thank you, Hirsch. This is great stuff.
Hey folks, again, this is Hirsch. Thank you so much for all the help. Special thanks to the guys at Hahn and Woodward. Be careful in the hot rod. Next time, this is going to be sitting on that.